It is absolutely absurd how many people think getting a degree or certificate still guarantees them a job, because the harsh truth is it won't. If that were the case, all the millions of people who've gotten these same certifications and certificates and degrees would all be data analysts by now, but that is not the case. The most important difference between those who get stuck landing a job in data analytics and those who actually land their dream job is just one thing. And it's simple. They put in hours day after day, the same repetitions. And more importantly, they show their work to the world. Hey, if you're new here, my name is Rohan. I've worked in multiple roles across tech, finance, and I've been in analytics for almost 5 years now. And it wasn't because of a magic pill or anything. There were people much smarter than me who didn't get in the same roles as I did. It's because I followed these principles I'm about to show you in the 6-month roadmap. So if you follow this plan and actually stick to it, you'll have the skills, the projects, and the network to actually compete with people who have years of experience on the job and actually stand out. Look, this is not going to be easy. You're not going to wake up tomorrow a data analyst, but if you put in 10 to 15 hours of work every single week for the next 6 months, outside of work, outside of school, you will be interview ready. And by month 3, you'll already be applying heavily and getting feedback on your application. So let's get started. So before you touch any technical skill, you need to start building your network. And it's not for the reason you may think. You may be thinking I want referrals, but it's more important than that. You need to figure out if this role is even the right fit for you. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people try to break into tech or a job and they completely hate the role. So the point of this exercise is for you to talk to people in the field, and you need to figure out, would you actually like the day-to-day? Do you like the work culture? Do you like the type of projects you'd be working on? Because there's nothing worse than you putting in 6 months worth of time and figuring out, oh, this field isn't for me. Secondly, data roles are competitive. We've been seeing that with the job market and everything going on right now, and referrals are like gold and almost essential in this day and age. And you don't just get referrals by spamming resumes or spamming emails. You get them by building relationships with people. Like any business, like anything in life, it is a people business. So starting immediately, I want you to commit to reaching out to 10 people plus per week. Use LinkedIn, use your alumni network, use people at jobs you've used to work at, or even Discord communities. I'm going to link my own down below with over 7,000 people in it. Look, don't just ask for a job. Don't reach out and say, can I get a job, or give you a resume. You need to be asking these personalized questions. Hey, what's your day-to-day like? How did you end up in the field? How do you like your current role? What are some challenges in your job? And you just set up these things called coffee chats. These coffee chats are designed for you to understand how the day-to-day actually looks like and how they actually broke into the field or any advice they have starting out. These conversations are going to shape everything else you learn up until this point. It'll make your life 10 or even 100 times easier while landing interviews. I cannot tell you, 4 out of the 5 roles I've gotten so far have been through referrals. Even some clients I land since freelancing have been through just referrals. That's the easiest way to actually get on a call with someone. Okay, let's talk skills. Your first couple months are all about hammering down the foundational skills, because no matter what company you're in, no matter what industry you're in, you are going to need to have these skills. If you skip this step, nothing else will really make sense. So let's break it down to first principles here. First up, you need to start learning statistics. And before you start rolling your eyes and be like, oh, I'm not good at math, listen up. It's not that complicated. You don't need to be a PhD in stats. You don't even need a degree in stats. It does help, but all you need to do is an intro level college class of statistics, or even an advanced high school level class. Without statistics, you're just randomly looking at numbers. A good example I like to give to beginners is when you're building a house, if you have the materials and you have the builders, but you don't have a plan, you're kind of just putting bricks down randomly, right? You're not really building a house. So if you have a blueprint or a plan or an architect helping you with this, it becomes a lot easier, right? You can actually follow a plan. Same thing with data analysts. You could be the most skilled with SQL, the most skilled with Python or Tableau, but if you don't have a plan and you don't have a method to your madness, nothing that you're going to do is going to make sense. So here's what you actually need to know in statistics. So just make sure to write this down, and I'm going to give you some resources to actually learn this as well. First up, you need to learn probability. In plain English, this is how likely something is to happen. For example, what are the odds that sales go up next week or next month? The next skill you need to know are distributions. How is your data spread? How does the shape of your data? Are most people clicking on your website once, or are a few people clicking hundreds of times? This is called distribution. The next skill you need to know is hypothesis testing. And this is just asking, is the change real, or is it just random noise? Like testing if a new ad campaign really performs better than the old one. And you should know what regressions are. And these are just really simple. It's just a fancy way of understanding relationships. So does higher ad spend lead to higher revenue, and by how much? These are all just fancy terms. Don't get complicated by it. They're really just, in plain English, really simple. And in my career, if you just learn these 4 things, you'll already have the toolkit to analyze 80% of what you'll do on the job. So to learn all these things, there are great sites on YouTube like StatQuest. StatQuest is a great channel. You can actually start learning these immediately. There's Khan Academy. Academy, there's practical statistics for data science. There's so many resources you can learn this for absolutely free. Don't freak out. Trust me, these are not hard concepts to actually master, but they will help you so much. Stanford also has a free intro to stats class you can take that covers a lot of these material here. Now, the second skill you need to learn is Excel or Google Sheets. You need to think of this as your sandbox. When you have really small data sets or samples of data sets and you're trying to understand what's going on, I typically will use Excel or Google Sheets. I come from a finance background, so I already had some understanding, and I'm hoping some of you guys have some understanding too, but if you don't worry, don't stress out. So the core skills you need to learn here are what pivot tables are. This just helps you summarize data quickly. That's all it is. It's like finding like average sales per region and just allows you to find these really quick statistics. The next concept you need to learn are VLOOKUPs, XLOOKUPs, and HLOOKUPs, or index match, but don't worry about that. The most common one of this is going to be VLOOKUPs, so spend all your time on here. The easiest way to do this is just like pretty much combining two lists together. I'd also learn maybe if-else statements in Excel. This is also a good intro to programming. So if you understand if-else in Excel, you can actually apply this to later on principles like SQL or Python or Tableau later down the line. And this is like making decisions in your data, like labeling customers as high value or low value, or whatever groupings you want to do. Next, I'll just learn some charts and graphs and how to visualize data. And this is where the stats comes in. Stats allows you to understand what visuals you need to do for what types of data. So typically there are two types of data. There's qualitative and quantitative. It's an oversimplification, but quantitative is just pretty much numbers. Qualitative is like, hey, that's blue, that's red. And you have to choose the right visualization for what type of data you're actually using. So the whole point of data visualization is communicate data visually so non-technical people can actually understand the data. Because if you just give people a spreadsheet, they have no idea what you're doing, right? So the whole point here is to just have a way to communicate your data easily. So Excel and Google Sheets are mainly for smaller scale analysis. They're not for giant data sets. They don't work well with giant data sets. So a rule of thumb is maybe 5 to 10,000 rows of data. You want to move out of Excel. Don't spend money here. YouTube tutorials are more than enough to actually learn Excel. There's dime a dozen of these. If you really want to skip all the steps, the best place to probably learn Excel though is just on the Microsoft website itself. They have Excel training and they made the tools. So I think they are the best and most up to date when it comes to Excel. So get started with the project, find a project on Kaggle and just import it into Excel and then start using the Microsoft documentation. Now comes my favorite skill, and that's SQL. This is the language of data, and every single data role I've had until this point, I've had to use SQL. It's been my bread and butter no matter what role I'm in. Every company will store information in databases, and SQL is pretty much the language to talk to databases. So just start with the basics. You just need to learn what select and from are. Select just allows you to choose what columns you want to see, like names, dates, what color your product is, and from just shows what table you're actually pulling from. After this, I would learn what where is. Where is a fancy way of just saying filter. How do you want to filter it? Do you want to filter by shirts being blue? Do you want to filter it by date being in the last month? That is how you use where. After this, I would learn what joins are, because oftentimes companies have different tables. So in a database, you can think of it similar to like a spreadsheet. You have different tables and some of them connect with each other based on the idea of primary key and foreign key. Don't freak out. This is just a way of identifying something. So it could be by customer ID, could be in two different tables. And then you just join two different tables together into one so you can actually analyze it easier. You have to learn the concept of what joins are to just combine two different tables together. So an example of this could be like, hey, I want to match customer information with the order ID. So I can just get more information about the customer. After this, I want you to learn something called group by. This allows you to summarize data a bit easier. And finally, this is a bit more advanced, but you can learn subqueries and common table expressions. This is pretty much like putting one question inside another, basically a SQL query inside a SQL query. It gets a bit complicated, but this is pretty essential when it comes to data interviewing. And if you're having any trouble learning this, I have a data interview platform called querypro.ai. I highly recommend checking out. 10 questions are completely free. Just test out if you like it. There's an AI feature and there's a full SQL course if you do enjoy it. We actually got hiring managers in data to actually create the questions, so they replicate the actual data interview. I don't really care if you use querypro.ai. Use whatever tool you think is best. There are other ones like LeetCode, there's HackerRank, there's StataScratch, there are a dime a dozen of these. But the more important part that I want you to do is I just want you to practice. It's just all about repetition, because a lot of the interviews are going to be in SQL and you can't just talk your way out of it. You can't just say, oh, I'm an expert in SQL. They're going to actually test you with live questions that you're actually going to face on the job and you're going to be able to answer it. So it just all boils down. The reason why I passed all my interviews is because I just did rep after rep. I made it so unreasonable I wouldn't pass it by doing a number of these SQL questions just day after day, and it just made unreasonable not to pass these interviews. So it just all comes down to repetitions, and I want you to pass them. When it comes to learning SQL, use a free website like SQL Bolt or W3 Schools. W3 Schools is great, but the problem is you just don't get interview style questions. So pair learning it with W3 schools first, and after that, you want to use a tool like Query Pro, LeetCode, or Stata Scratch to actually practice interview questions. And that's all you need. Okay, so that's all you really need to do by end of month 2. You need to be able to pull and clean data, do basic analysis with these tools, and finally, you need to explain your logic out loud to stakeholders like you're already in an interview. Because it's not enough to just do the analysis, you have to actually communicate it with your boss or stakeholders or product managers. Stakeholders are just a fancy way of just saying a different person at the company or different team at the company who's involved with the project. So if you can do these, you're already ahead of most beginners. Congratulations. Now, months 2 to 3, I want you to start focusing on data visualization. And it's very important you choose business-centered projects here rather than just random projects. This is where you turn raw numbers into insights that decision makers will actually see. So pick one BI tool. BI stands for business intelligence, and it's pretty much just a visualization software. Choose Tableau, Power BI, Looker. These are the big 3. Almost every company I've worked for, they use Looker and Tableau. I haven't had to use Power BI almost at all. So I'm going to leave it up to you. You can use Tableau Public for free. So I'm putting it out there. You can use Looker Studio for free, Data Studio. And there's also a Power BI community version you can use for free too. So all of these, you have some free options to learn on. You need to actually spend money here. Before I dive deeper into this, please just don't make pretty charts and just try to make it pretty. That's not the point here. The point here is we want you to learn how to tell a story with data. That is the whole point. The book Storytelling with Data is a great resource to actually learn how to tell a story. This is something I've been victim to as well. When I first got started with my career, I would just put every chart, every single number I thought was valuable. And the problem is that just creates noise, right? If your customer looks at that chart, do they care about revenue? Do they care about profit? Why do they care about the sales department if they're just looking at finance data, right? So you want to make sure it's essential and it tells a story to the business problem they're trying to ask. If the business problem finance is trying to ask is, hey, what's the profit and loss for last quarter? They don't care about maybe inventory as much, right? So it's just about getting the relevant data and basically creating a story to solve that stakeholders or that customer's problem. So in data visualization, there's only a few core concepts you need to learn. One is data cleaning. You need to learn how to connect the raw data or the tables. You need to learn how to remove duplicates, handle null values, and filter out noise so your dashboards don't break. You also need to learn how to model and relationships. Remember how I said earlier how there are multiple tables sometimes? So you need to be able to combine those multiple tables without things breaking. And then you have to use the basics you've learned in Excel and statistics to make bar charts, line charts, and use visual hierarchy when you read storytelling with data. And remember, make something useful. Don't make something that's just pretty. And the best place to learn Tableau for free is just tableau.com/learn. That is the easiest way. You don't have to pay for this either. It's completely free. And it's better to always learn from the source itself sometimes because they are the most up to date with documentation. And this is also the stage I want you to get started building real projects. You spent all the time learning. Now it's time to apply everything you've learned. And the difference between projects that get ignored by people and the projects that will actually get you hired is making them business friendly. Hiring managers, unfortunately, don't care about random dashboards or random projects on movies or Pokemon. Unfortunately, I do care about Pokemon and movies, so share them with me. But they care more about, can you solve the business problems that you're going to be doing on the job? Because end of the day, it's all about de-escalating risk when people hire someone. So if you've done similar analysis to what you'll be doing on the job, you'll be a much stronger candidate than everyone else. So here's how you can actually pick better projects. I'm going to boil it down to 4 different projects you can choose from to make it easy for you. One is marketing analytics. You can analyze a campaign data set, show ad spend impacts conversion rates. The second type are finance and revenue analytics projects. You can use stock or sales data to find trends in revenue growth, churn, or profitability. I know this all sounds like a bunch of buzzwords right now, but bear with me. It's very important you understand the language of the industry you're actually applying to, rather than just going in, just doing analytics. Number 3, product analytics, and this is what I specialize in. You can just take a random product and run analytics to figure out how to actually improve that product to make more money or maybe even save more money. Some parts of the life cycle are just market sizing as well. Category 4 is customer behavior analytics. This is where you can actually segment customers into groups and show which group is actually valuable to the business. Now, the important part here is most people will just choose one tool that you've learned so far, but I want you to combine multiple tools. When someone looks at your project, they're like, oh, this person knows what tool to use for what use case. So combine SQL, combine Excel, combine a data visualization tool like Tableau or Power BI or Looker into one giant project, and then write up your project on GitHub or datascienceperfold.io. These are just places to host your project and portfolios to showcase to people. And remember, one business-centered project will stand out more than any certificate you get under the sun. I promise you that. By the end of month 3, you should have a project done. You should have learned statistics, Excel, SQL, and a BI tool. And at this point, you're ready to start applying and getting feedback. There's some more advanced concepts we're going to cover later, but at this point, I want you to start applying now. You don't need to feel ready to start applying. You can start applying immediately. If you wait until you're perfect by the end of 6 months, you'll actually never apply and you'll never get feedback. So around this 3-month mark, you should already have been talking to people, getting coffee chats, and learning more about the industry and having a good pile of referrals stacked up. And yes, you'll get rejected, but that's normal. That is life. Every rejection is just free feedback. Look at it that way. Every interview you have is free feedback. Every interview you have is just free practice, right? That's what we're doing this for. All it takes is one interview and one job offer to make everything else worth it. A little story about mine is my first job, I applied to over 140 different jobs before I got my first offer in a good job market. That's a good lesson. Like with a job market that's not as good like it is now, it might take more numbers than that. You have to be prepared to use volume. You have to be prepared to have rejection. You have to be okay with just spending those 10 to 15 hours every single week and just putting in the reps to applying and learning. But the main advantage to applying early is you get feedback. You learn what companies actually test for learning SQL in interviews. You learn what type of case problems or business problems actually show up in interviews. And you learn where your gaps in your applications really are. And most importantly, you learn what resumes actually get interviews. So the way I structure this is I have 3 or 4 different versions of my resume, and I will test out. I use data analysis in my application process, and I learn which resume actually gets the best first round interview rate, and I double down on that resume type. So I highly recommend making a couple variants of your resume and just testing everything out. Remember, you are a data analyst now. You need to be using data analysis in your job search process as well. So this feedback loop is you learn, you apply, you get rejected over and over again, you adjust, and you repeat the process until you land your first data job. If you do this by the end of month 6, you won't just know the tools, you'll have battle-tested interview strategies that no one can teach you. And this is what will actually get you hired. Now, months 4 through 5, while you're applying, you can learn more advanced tools like Python, cloud, and maybe a bit of AI as well. In Python, let's keep it simple. There are 3 different packages. If you don't know what a package is, it's just a fancy word of code written by someone else that you can actually apply. So I don't want you to spend time mastering machine learning, spend too much time on this, but just be aware of the different packages. Maybe have 1 or 2 projects done in Python as well. Learn how to manipulate, clean, and visualize data in Python, and that's pretty much all you need to do up until this point. You have the rest of your career to master this tool. There's a great book called Python for Data Analysis that I actually recommend to all my students as well. So just go ahead and check that book out. There should be some digital copies somewhere, so just go ahead and find that. After this, you need to learn some form of cloud. And you don't need to be an expert in cloud, but just show signaling and awareness that you are willing to learn. I took the Amazon Cloud certification. I also took the Amazon AI certification just to showcase that I'm interested, I'm putting in effort. They don't expect you to be a master in cloud because you haven't actually worked in it, but they do expect you to have some initiative here. So I don't know how much it is. I think it's around $100 to take certification. It should take you a few weeks to actually study for it. Something like AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, these don't guarantee you a job, but it signals that you understand modern data stacks in the cloud environment because newsflash, almost every single company is on the cloud now, every single big company. And this is becoming an essential skill and tool to learn. Remember, these certifications, these certificates you're going to take are not guarantees. They are signals to showcase you're interested and you have taken initiative on your end. Students of mine in my own program have landed interviews because they've taken initiative to enroll in a program outside of school. So they can get you in the door, but your projects and consistency are what's actually going to get you hired, what you know. And the final skill I want you to learn, and this is more optional, you have the rest of your career to learn, is some sort of AI skill or automation skill. Tools like N8N and Make. Don't worry about this, don't stress out about this, but these are just more optional. I just want to make you aware of them. If you are interested, I have a full course on it. I'm going to link it below. If you have time, do it. If not, focus on the core skills. I'd rather you focus on that. Now, months 5 through 6, you need to start focusing on your portfolio, refining it and optimizing it. You need to be focusing on heavy applications because you should have learned a lot of the skills up to this point. And finally, you need to start building your personal brand and data. And I'm not saying personal brand like you need to make videos online. In fact, I don't recommend making videos online. I recommend making your personal brand on LinkedIn. You need to understand, where are your employers located? Are they spending time on YouTube watching videos, or are they on LinkedIn hiring people? So where is your intended audience? And it's probably going to be LinkedIn. So start talking about your projects on LinkedIn, what you learned, what were the business impact, and people start reaching out to you. I get inbound. I get recruiters reaching out to me on LinkedIn because I've optimized my profile. So portfolio is just you showcase you know the skills. You don't just talk that you know the skills. You actually show people you know the skills. By now, you should have at least 3 solid projects in your portfolio. Keep them across different domains so you don't pigeonhole yourself to one domain. Keep one maybe in finance, one in marketing, one in product, and just have these portfolio projects ready to go. I recommend also writing down your learnings. Don't just put the code or don't just put the projects. Write down what you've learned, what were the limitations from your project. Push all of these to your GitHub, polish your dashboards on Tableau Public so they're ready to see. And if you can, just create a simple website or use datascienceperfull.io or GitHub pages. Nothing fancy, just a one-page site with maybe a picture, who you are, what you've learned, and what you intend on doing. When you apply, you want to just link this on your resume and showcase to employers, I don't just know SQL and Python, I've actually applied it. This separates you from the average applicant. Now, at this point, you have everything you need. You have the network, you have all the skills, you have the portfolio, and you're building your personal brand on LinkedIn, it's time to start heavily applying. Set a target for 15 to 20 applications per week. Yes, you heard that right, 15 to 20 per week. And that's not complicated, right? That's 2 to 3 applications per day, and tailor these applications. Don't just spam them. Tailor each resume, tailor each applications for the job itself. And for every single job you apply to, find one person on LinkedIn who works at that company, who's probably a hiring manager or someone who works on that team, and send them a short LinkedIn note or Gmail or an email, just saying that you applied and you're really interested in the role, just so they have some visibility, because oftentimes your application won't even get seen. It'll just get filtered out by a random thing called ATS, which just filters out applications. So you want to get ahead of that, and you want to get someone to actually see your application. This simple connection request or message could be the difference between your application getting ignored or getting really fast tracked in the interview process. So I want to iterate this. Degrees don't guarantee you a job. Boot camps don't land you a job. Certifications don't guarantee you a job. These are all just signals. They're nice to have, they structure things for you, but they do not guarantee a job. What will help you land a job is consistency, effort, the things you already know, and showing proof of that work to other people. This is just the roadmap I would take if I was starting from zero today to become a data analyst in 6 months. If you follow this to a T, I promise you, you'll be ahead of most of 99% of other applicants. If you want help sticking to this Plan 21 community, just go ahead and join the Discord below. I'm also going to leave a free roadmap you can take with a bunch of free resources, so go ahead and check that out as well. If you found this useful, consider subscribing. I released weekly videos on data analytics and helping you get hired. Good luck, and remember, the key is doing the work day after day.